Sanatana Dharma, an elementary textbook of Hindu religion and ethics, narrated by Vaidyanathan. Part 3, Chapter 8, Virtues and Vices in relation to superiors. Unselfish love prompts us to make sacrifice for others and restrain ourselves for the common good. Such love is the root of virtues, of the qualities promoting union. Conversely, hate prompts us to take from others and grasp at desirable things for our own enjoyment, injuring others. Therefore, hate is the root of vices, of the qualities prompting separateness. When we make a sacrifice for someone we love, we feel happiness in doing so. This teaches us that the deepest happiness, real bliss, lies in giving, which is the joy of the Jivatma, rather than in taking, which is the joy of the bodies. Let us see how love impels a person to act in relation to his superiors, to those to whom he looks up. A person's superiors are God, sovereign, parents, teachers, and the aged. Love for God manifests as reverence, devotion, worship, and submission to His will. All lovers of God exhibit these virtues. Bhishma's reverence and worship of Sri Krishna, the avatara of Vishnu, is a prime example. During the Rajasuya Yajna of Yudhishthira, Bhishma instructed them to offer the first Arghya to Krishna. Narada declared that those who do not approve of worship offered to Krishna, the oldest in the universe, deserve neither soft words nor consideration. Those men that will not worship Krishna with eyes like lotus petals should be regarded as dead though moving. When Bhishma lay dying, he was thinking of Krishna in mind, word and act, and his one thought was to receive his blessing. He closed the great exhortation with the recital of the 1,000 names of Vasudeva, and his last words, while bidding all farewell, asked Sri Krishna's permission to depart. In Prahlada, the son of the Daitya king Hiranyakashipu, we have one of the most famous examples of devotion. Despite all his teacher's efforts, he steadily prayed to and praised Hari. His father's threats and attempts to kill him were in vain. The wild elephant that should have trampled him failed to injure him. The rocks that should have crushed him lay as light feathers on his bosom. The sword that should have struck off his head fell blunted from his neck. The poison that should have carried death along his veins proved harmless as water. Finally, Narasimha, the avatara, burst from the granite pillar and delivered Hari's servant from the tyrant who sought to slay him. Dhruva, fleeing his father's palace due to his stepmother's unkindness, demonstrated such fervor, courage, and steadfastness in his devotion and worship that Hari appeared to him. As a reward, Hari gave him the throne of the pole star on the boundary of the Triloki, where he lives and reigns. Nothing is more marked in the perfect human character of Ramachandra than his unwavering submission to the divine will. Over and over, during the turmoil following his sudden exclusion from the throne, he calms those around him by reminding them that all that happens is by the good law. He remains utterly unshaken by the storm, knowing the real amid all changing unrealities. On the other hand, we constantly read about the downfall of those who do not honor the Supreme Lord. Mighty rulers like Ravana, the monarch of Lanka, fell because they considered themselves rivals of Ishvara and opposed his loving will for the worlds. Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, refused Sri Krishna's command to free the captured kings and was slain by Bhima. Shishupala fell before the discus of the Lord he denied. Duryodhana perished along with his friends and followers due to his persistent rejection of Sri Krishna's counsels. The list could go on for many pages. These stories highlight the warning that those who show hate towards Ishvara must perish. Loyalty to the head of the state is emphasized in the Shastras both by direct command and by example. When Yudhishthira was a king of Indraprastha, his four brothers went to war and brought all the wealth they gained to his feet. They fought for their king, not for themselves. When Yudhishthira was exiled after the gambling match, the people came out to follow him, leaving their allegiance to Dhritarashtra. The loyal prince instructed them to return to Hastinapura and obey their proper ruler, as this was the only way to ensure general prosperity. This loyalty was fostered in the people by the devotion to duty imposed on the king and by the high ideal of kingship insisted upon. Utatya, of the lineage of Angira, instructing King Mandhata, son of Yuvanashva, said, "One becomes king to uphold righteousness, not to conduct himself capriciously. The king is the protector of the world, O Mandhata. If he acts righteously, he attains the honors of a veritable God upon earth. But if he acts unrighteously, he sinks into hell. All creatures rest upon righteousness, and righteousness in turn rests upon the king. That king alone is a true king who upholds righteousness. If he fails to chastise unrighteousness, the Devas desert his mansions, and he incurs public criticism and condemnation among men. Patriotism, the love of one's country, and public spirit, caring for the nation more than for oneself, are virtues closely akin to loyalty and should never be separated from it. King and country are the objects of true loyalty. No person should be without his love of country and the readiness to sacrifice themselves for their native land. National greatness cannot exist without patriotism and public spirit, and the national greatness ultimately means family and individual prosperity. The whole and the part cannot be separated. Public spirit makes a person feel the successes and sufferings of their country as though they were their own, as indeed they are. It drives them to protect the weak from injustice, resist wrong, uphold the law, stand for justice, refuse to make unfair profits at the community's expense, and avoid cheating the community by evading what is due. The heroes of ancient India are constantly described as intent on the welfare of others. Sri Krishna bids Arjuna to see to the protection of the masses and the maintenance of mankind. A person who thinks only for themselves and their family is short sighted and undermines their future happiness. Complete obedience to parents is one of the most often repeated injunctions of the Sanatana Dharma. Ramachandra, the great example, demonstrates this obedience to his father. When Dasharatha is tricked into granting Rama's exile, and Kaikeyi tells Rama that his father fears to speak his will, Rama quickly replies, "Speak, O honored lady, the desire of the king, and I will carry it out. There is no service greater than service of the father, than carrying out his words." To all arguments counseling resistance, he steadfastly answers, "There is no power in me to transgress my father's order. I shall abide by my father's orders." Later, when his father is dead and Bharata, the unwilling ruler, holds his crown in trust, Rama's response to Bharata's passionate pleadings to ascend the throne is that his father had sent him to the forest and placed Bharata on the throne. Each must do his own task according to the father's word. What my father has commanded must not be made untrue. In the Mahabharata, we read the story of a knower of Brahman, disguised in the impure body of a bird hunter, who led the Brahmana Kaushika to his parents to learn wisdom. The hunter took Kaushika to the beautiful rooms where he housed his aged parents, attributing his happy state of knowledge and peace to his service to them. Bowing low at their feet, he introduced his guest and said, "These are my parents, the idols I worship. Whatever is due to Devas, I do to them. To me, they are like the three sacred fires mentioned by the learned. And O Brahmana, they seem to me to be as good as Yajna or the four Vedas. The two parents, the sacred fire, the soul, and the Guru, these five, O good Brahmana, are worthy of the highest reverence." He then told Kaushika that he had acted wrongly in leaving his parents to learn the Vedas and advised him to return to them and console them. "Return to the side of your father and mother and be diligent in honoring your parents, for I do not know if there is any virtue higher than this." Who does not know how Bhishma won the boon that death should not touch him until he permitted it, by resigning the throne and marriage to win for his father the bride for whom, in silence, his father's heart was yearning. The king Shantanu, of the lunar lineage of kings, wished to marry the beautiful Satyavati, but struggled against himself for the sake of his son Bhishma. He thought a stepmother might not be kind to his beloved son. The care born of the struggle showed on King Shantanu's face, and Bhishma inquired with the ministers and learned the cause. He went to Satyavati's father and asked that she be married to the king. The father said, "The king is aged. and you will shortly reign instead of him. I would rather marry my daughter to you. But Bhishma replied, do not say such a thing. When my father has wished to marry her, she is my mother already. Give her to the king. Then Satyavati's father said, but I shall do so only if her son succeeds the king in sovereignty. Bhishma said at once, I promise to forego my birthright. I shall place that younger brother of mine upon the throne. But Satyavati's father said again, we know your word once given may not be broken. But what shall bind your sons from disputing their uncle's right? Then Bhishma said, I promise never to marry at all, so there shall be no sons to me who may dispute their uncle's right. Now do you let my father have his wish? Because of his fearful promises, the Devas cried out with a bodiless voice. He has been known as Devavrata so long. He shall now be known as Bhishma the Terrible. Terrible surely to himself, but most loved and dear to all true Hindu hearts. King Shantanu, when he heard that the vows have been made and could not be helped, took Satyavati as his wife. In the fullness of his father's love, he bestowed on Bhishma the gift of death at his own will alone. Men who prevail over their passions and conserve their manhood perfectly may well prevail against the might of death itself, as long as they live. On the other hand, it was Duryodhana's stubborn insolence and disobedience to his parents that precipitated the war which destroyed his house. Over and over again, his father pleaded with him to yield to the just demands of the Pandavas and give them a share of their ancestral property. But Duryodhana scorned his prayers and persisted in his own way. Even when his mother, Gandhari, begged him in open sabha to obey his father and regard his duty, he treated her harshly and disrespectfully, bringing doom upon himself. No son can succeed who grieves his father or mother by disobedience or disrespect. The Sanatana Dharma adds the teacher to the father and mother as the third great object of reverence and service. This virtue is evident in the ancient heroes who serve as examples to all Hindu boys. The Pandavas' deep love and unfailing reverence for Bhishma and Drona, even when compelled to fight against them, is a prime example. They bowed at their teacher's feet before the battle at Kurukshetra. When Drishtadyumna seized Drona's white locks, Arjuna agonized cry was, bring the teacher alive! Do not slay him! He should not be slain! His heart-broken sob when the crime was complete. I have sunk into hell, overcome with shame. The only valid reason for disobedience to the Guru, according to Sanatana Dharma, lies in a previous promise or clear duty. Bhishma, the epitome of Dharma, provides a striking illustration of this in his career. After the death of his father Shantanu, Bhishma, in accordance with his vow, placed his younger brother Chitrangada on the throne. When Chitrangada was slain in battle, he then placed his second brother Vichitravirya on the throne of Hastinapura. Seeking suitable wives for Vichitravirya, Bhishma learned that the three daughters of the king of Kashi were about to hold a Swayamvara and were worthy of marriage with his brother. He went to Kashi and, by his might in battle, carried them off from the midst assembled candidates for their hands. When he brought them to Hastinapura, the younger two, Ambika and Ambalika, willingly consented to marry Vichitravirya. However, the eldest, Amba, wished to marry Shalva, king of another country, having chosen him long before. Bhishma sent her with honor to King Shalva, but he sent her back, saying she had been won in battle and he could not take her back as a gift. Then Amba said to Bhishma, "If Shalva will not marry me because you won me from him in battle, then you must marry me yourself." Bhishma was greatly distressed for her sake, but in view of his vow of lifelong celibacy, could not consent. When Amba was very angry and went to Bhishma's guru, Parashurama, and Parashurama sided with her and ordered Bhishma to marry Amba. But he declined, deeming the keeping of his promise a higher duty than obedience to his teacher in a wrongful order. And ultimately, there was a great battle between Parashurama and Bhishma. For many days, the single combat lasted, and many wounds were received by both. And more than once, they fainted with fatigue and loss of blood and shock of serious wound. But reviving again, they renewed the fight, till on the 28th day, the aged Parashurama acknowledged that he could do no more, and Bhishma won his cause. Yet, because however unwillingly he had brought much sorrow upon Amba, Karma decreed that she should prove the means of his death. Reverence for the aged fittingly closes the list of virtues that should flourish when we relate to our superiors. It was a marked characteristic of the ancient Hindu character. The wisdom gained from long experience is a precious treasure possessed by the aged, and they willingly share it with teachable, courteous, and respectful youth. In the hurry of modern life, this respect for the aged is often overlooked, making it even more necessary to cultivate.